Are there parts of you that are longing to be expressed? Not from the intellect, but from the depths of your heart. Join us for this conversation about Gene Key 62 and welcome to the Free to Be Free portal. I'm Julia Ananda, your host, and I'm here with Margaret Miller. Margaret is going to weave together her insights for the energy of this week, utilizing the tools of the Sabian symbols and the gene keys. Margaret, I'm so interested in this conversation.
Hi, Julia. Yes, I'm excited for this conversation as well. And I love the question, about is there something that wants to be expressed, not from our intellect, but from our heart? Because that is basically the teaching of this 60-second gene key, which moves from the shadow of intellect through to the siddhi of impeccability, and it's the pathway of precision. And so it's a beautiful journey, this gene key, through looking at our language, looking at our thought processes, looking at how the mind operates and what is intellect and what's intelligence and what's the difference between the two. And so, and really, it's a deep love in my heart, something that I'm always striving for, and that is to communicate through my heart and through the wisdom that comes through when I'm fully present. And so this is sort of, the beginning of that conversation. So the shadow of intellect is talking about, it's not saying that intellect itself is bad, right? It's very useful. We need our intellect to, you know, make certain decisions and to act on our thoughts and to create things. So it has a purpose, right? It's not a shadow in and of itself, but it's when we put the intellect in the driver's seat, when we allow the intellect to uh, take charge and make the decisions rather than checking in with our heart, where our true intelligence resides. And we're trained out of it at a very early age. We're in sort of traditional schooling. We learn all of the facts and the details, all of these facts and details, but we don't, many times in most school systems, don't learn how to put those facts into any useful um, arrangement. Like, we don't know how to, what good is it to know these things if we can't apply it in some sort of real way in our life, if it doesn't serve to uplift our lives in some way, right? And so the intellect then, as a shadow, keeps us caught in patterns of thinking that are not usually not helpful, right? Because most of the time our mind is seeking out the uh, danger, possible danger signals, right? It's looking for what's wrong. And while that's okay, we need to have it look for what's wrong. It will continue to look for what's wrong even when there's nothing wrong. And it can make up stories that we believe, and they're not true. We can make up stories about anything and they're not necessarily true. I'm kind of going off on this, so I'll try and reel it back in here. So so let me before I go into the gift of precision and so forth. Let me bring in the Sabian symbols and I can kind of weave it in that way. That way, this won't be a hugely long uh, topic. So Cancer 21, we talked about this a little bit last week because they overlap. Okay, so the gene key 62 also includes Cancer 21, which is an operatic prima donna singing. Okay, and so at this, if we bring this in, it illustrates the gift expression of precision and really the siddhic expression of impeccability because this voice, it's giving voice to something that's coming deep from within the being, right? And that precision, when we talk about precision as a gift, it's not about it, it can be about exactness, like the exactness of that tone, but it's more about the harmonic resonance of it. Like the precision is about how it lands and how it moves us, how the energy moves us. And that precision is seen through, in this case, in this operatic prima donna, through the voice, the 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 expression and that resonance of the tone. So it could at the, you could see the prima donna at the intellectual level might be the people even receiving it could be only receiving it at the intellectual level where they're picking apart the performance, right? And or it could be received at the gift level where it's hitting the precise tone that just explodes their heart open, right? Isn't that great? And then that or being touched by the impeccability of the truth that's coming through. So that's just a beautiful way to look at that symbol. And you can see that, we looked at it differently in the last, looking at the last gene key. And that's the beauty of these Sabian symbols, is that you can really, and any kind of symbology. And this is what doesn't happen when we're only coming from the intellect. We can't utilize symbolic language or that symbolic wisdom unless we incorporate that the heart and the feeling centers, right? So then Cancer 22, a young woman awaiting a sailboat. Okay, and this is the theme of this is receptivity and hope and trust and the trust in the arrival of something greater, right? And so it has this image of sort of what the feminine side, the receptive side, right? The right brain and allowing that receptivity to, and taking a pause before we speak to bring our awareness down into our heart center and then allowing whatever's going to come through to just begin to flow, right? And so waiting for that clarity to happen before speaking or waiting before taking action to feel into, is this the correct moment, is this the correct action, and then moving forward. So it's that divine precision or that natural precision that comes through. Then Cancer 23, the meeting of a literary society. You can see how this can be like a literary society would be sort of a really structured exchange, an intellectual exchange, but they're usually looking for the beauty. They're looking for the precision in the words, and how is it articulated, and how did it move you, and what happened, right? In that, the reading of whatever great work they're discussing. And so then it's sort of like communication then becomes this art form, right? Because it is an art form. And so Cancer 24, a woman and two men on a bit of sunlit land facing south. Okay, this is sort of complicated symbol, but it's really south facing is is the exposure to truth, the exposure to light, right? When we want to have something south facing, it's because it's facing the light. And in a lot of indigenous and different wisdom traditions, the facing south, uh, one of my teachers always said, south is the direction we always face. And that's because we are facing our death. We're always facing our death. Okay, life and death. And so anyway, there's a lot of symbology that's involved in this, but the Trinity here, we have two men and a woman. So we've got sort of the in some ways it's the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. That's just one interpretation of it, but basically it's a Trinity. And so that is talking about awareness and the balance of perspective. And it's very interesting to me that in the gene key pulse for this particular gene key, Richard Rudd talks about the Trinity. He talks about, we're trying to get back to one. We got lost in duality, and that's where the intellect came in, right? That's where the intellect took over, is in duality, good and bad, and right and wrong, and light and dark, and all of the dualism. And the only way back to one, he says, is through the three. It's not the same one, it's a new one, but it's now one again through the three. And you can see it in all kinds of ways that we look at trinities. Anyway, so this is talking about exposing ourselves to truth and light, and where that becomes conscious alignment with spirit, and it can come up into this. Then we can access the greater wisdom, the greater knowing, the unified intelligence, right? The intelligence of all that is. So then Cancer 25, a dark shadow or mantle thrown suddenly over the right shoulder. This is like talking about the responsibility, or all of a sudden assuming responsibility or destiny, where we are initiated into our higher purpose, because a mantle is sort of like oftentimes depicts uh, us moving into a higher calling in some way. And so it's about impeccability. It's about when you wear that mantle, that you are reminded of the impeccability of the one, of source, right? And that all is perfect as it is, and that the the precision or the accuracy comes through the divine. So I just think these are incredible symbols again, once again for this. So Cancer 26, guests are reading in the library of a luxurious home. Okay, so here again, we have this like utilizing reading and um, intellectual pursuits as this raising of our frequency towards refinement and elegance and really, then being able to access symbology, where again, language becomes art. Okay, one more. Okay, the last one is Cancer 27, a storm in a canyon. And this is the theme in here. You see the storm is like the intensity that, you think about the intensity of our mind, the intensity of our intellect, and how stormy it can be. And within those limits of a canyon, it can be even more intense. And this is how we get, right? This is how our mind gets. This is when we're trapped in the intellect, when we're trapped in our mind, and we're not able to solve something or whatever, then the storm it rages on, right? Until we're able to utilize that energy in a way that brings something greater through, like coming into a state, calming ourselves down, coming into heart-centered awareness, using a mantra, using something that focuses the intensity of energy in a sacred manner or in a more useful manner, like following our breath in and out, allowing ourselves to, allowing that, to come through in a different way. So I guess, the one of the things that I really want to say, just to kind of wrap this up, is about how we can, through our language, also just through our thoughts, we are changing our frequency, right? This is really, I think, one of the most important teachings in this is that our choice of thoughts, and we do have a choice, like we don't have a choice on the sort of random thoughts that go through and that keep, those tape loops that keep playing, they just keep playing. But we have a choice whether to stop, try and stop that. And if we can't stop it, to replace it with another thought. And that's the purpose of a mantra, or that's a purpose of an affirmation, or whatever it is. It's like, if you can't stop yourself from thinking something that's damaging you, which our thoughts do. I mean, we know this, right? This is proven that negative thinking leads to physical damage, right? And it leads to emotional damage and all, mental damage and relationship damage and all kinds of things, right? And so when we change our thought to something even just slightly higher, we get ourselves out of that tape loop, right? So utilizing that pause to come into our heart, to find a feeling or a thought that's higher, that's of a higher frequency, and to just continue to work towards something higher in 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 our lives in every moment.
I'm so
That's
glad that you gave us these examples of how to use this. It's so interesting how everything is in perfect timing. Last night I asked for a solution for a client, asked Spirit for a solution for a client who cannot stop the negative because she's in such crisis and her mind just, and the example of the mantra or of turning our senses inward, or even moving the body to help bring us into heart-centered alignment, even in crisis, when the mind is just struggling and struggling with this horrible situation, but the mind cannot solve it. When there's a level of crisis that the mind cannot solve, we have to go into the heart. And I think that the way you said to replace the thoughts, if you can't change them, replace them. Replace them with the chanting of the mantra.
Mhm.
That's such a perfect tool for that. And then when it eases off, using the other tools of turning the senses inward or following the breath. But those are hard to do when the mind is
Right,
in such crisis, in
right.
such grasping.
Yeah, yeah. So you have to do something that is simple and repetitive and you know that you don't have to keep thinking about. And that's if you have a mantra that you that that you were given, or you have a mantra that you made for yourself, beautiful, because and use it. I use it all the time, because then it'll be available to you in those moments. You know, it'll be available to you. Like that. Why do we have to keep practicing, coming into heart-centered awareness? So that it'll be available to us when we need it. Because, how many times do I have to practice before I get it? Well, I don't know, at 1,000 times a day, 1,000,000 times a day. I don't know. But it means that, those things will be available to us when we need them. Yeah. I think one last thing, and it speaks to everything that we've been talking about, is I want to show you the Wisdom Keeper's card, Rosie Aronson's Wisdom Keeper card for precision, and then read you my gift to you. I want you to know the difference between the intellect and true intelligence. The intellect is your mind's ability to think, gather facts, and manipulate knowledge through language. It's is wonderful but limited. The more intellectual you are, the less true intelligence you use. The next time you look around you, look with your whole heart. Take in the essence of our mysterious world deep into your soul, and you will begin to taste true intelligence. From this place, you will care less about potential humiliation and more about speaking, writing, and inventing with love. In the language of simplicity, you will become an embodiment of precision and transform the world.
Oh, there's so much hope in that.
Isn't it?
Oh, I love it. That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah. So
Oh,
it also just sparked one more thing, that I realized that the Gene Keys dream arc, which is the sort of the right brain of the Gene Keys, where the wisdom of the animals and the insects and the birds are woven into this beautiful, beautiful journey. And so I highly recommend anyone who is wanting a more right-brained approach to looking at uh, the Gene Keys, uh, take a peek at the dream arc. And I believe that the dream arc just put out a YouTube video on whole brain thinking just the other day. So I also want to just kind of say, hey, look at this, because it really does relate to this conversation in such a beautiful way.
oh, that's great. And we'll put the links to those in the description.
Yeah.
And Margaret, I wanted to let everybody know that you offer these incredible tools for personal astrology and one-on-one sessions, and just wanted to let them know. So can you tell us your website and how they can schedule those sessions with you?
Absolutely. Yeah, my website is spiritwolfhealingarts.com. And I believe the link will be below, and you can definitely look at my offerings there and schedule right from the website if you'd like. Or you could contact me, through that website also on my email. So
Great. Okay, perfect.
yeah,
Margaret, thank you so much. Wow, this has been an incredible conversation, and I'm so lifted up by it. Thank you.
thank you. Yeah.